All right, Math 8. Hello, today we are going to work on angle measurement. So the essential question at the top says, can you accurately measure and identify angles? That's what we're working on today. If you guys look at the clocks under that types of angles section there, it's asking you to draw a different angle on that clock that matches what's there. So first thing I want you to do is go ahead and just pause the video right here. I want you to go ahead and do those clocks real quickly on your own. So go ahead and pause the video. When you guys finish, go ahead and restart the video again. All right, so hopefully you took a second to do that. Hopefully also you know how to tell time on a clock, okay? Because otherwise you maybe don't know what these times say, right? A right angle, I have 3 o'clock. You could also do like 9 o'clock if you wanted to. 9 o'clock would work. For an acute angle, again, that's less than 90 degrees. I selected 1 o'clock. You could do 2 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. All of those would work pretty well. You could do something like 5:30 if you wanted, or 4:30 would be good too. For an obtuse angle, that's an angle that it says greater than 90. Just remember we talked about in class, that is also less than 180. I'm going to go ahead and write that in for you. That's also less than 180 degrees. I picked 4 o'clock. You could do 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, anything like that. And then a straight angle is exactly 180 degrees. I did 6 o'clock. That's really probably your best bet for this, because if you did, I see a lot of people try to do like 9:15. And if you ever look at a clock, this is not what 9:15 looks like, right? Usually for 9:15, this hand's pointed a little bit past the 9, right? So then it's not a perfectly 180 degree angle, okay? So yeah, I picked 6 o'clock right there for your straight angle, okay? That's a good example of types of angles, how they appear in the real world. We're going to go ahead and move on into definitions. Again, we've talked about these already, so hopefully we know these, but an acute angle is going to be less than 90 degrees. A right angle is exactly 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is going to be greater than 90 degrees. But remember, it also needs to be less than 180 degrees. All right, and then lastly, a straight angle, as we talked about, needs to be exactly 180 degrees. So it forms a straight line when you look at it. All right. Last bit here, example 1, classify each angle. Remember, we talked about the square method. You can see it on B here. If we have that square, notice for B it fits perfectly in the corner, so that would be a right angle. We also talked about for the square angle, or for the square, to find the angles, as you can see that one. I don't know why it did what it did, but there's the square right in the corner. You can see that the line goes through that square. That makes it an acute angle. And then if we did the same thing on C, we draw that square, you can see that it goes around the square, the angle does, and that makes it an obtuse angle. Okay, once again, that square, drawing that square in the corner is optional unless it's a right angle, but it's just in case you want to see if you're unsure if an angle is acute or obtuse, you can use that trick. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about here, guys, is measuring an angle with a protractor. It is very important you guys know the steps to do this. Otherwise, angles just are not going to go well for you. So, you should have already had a chance to watch the video, the other video posted on Google Classroom that goes into how to place the protractor on an angle and measure it. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you do that. It's going to be pretty helpful for you. Okay, but to measure an angle, number 1 is to place the midpoint of the protractor on the vertex of the angle. Reminder, the vertex of an angle if I have an angle, your vertex is right there, right? If we use two rays, like so, it's just wherever those lines intersect to create the angle. Okay, that is your vertex. Okay, make sure you know that vocab term, the vertex. All right, so you're going to place the midpoint of your protractor on that vertex. Some of you might have a protractor that looks like the one on this paper. Some of you might have a protractor that when you look at it, you've got this, and then there's a hole in the middle, like this, right? Both of those are completely fine. If you've got one like on the paper, you're just looking at where the protractor has this little cross here, and then the middle right there is where your vertex needs to be. Okay, if you have one that is like the one I just drew, some of them have like a cross here. You would just make sure your vertex is lined up there. Other ones will have a hole in the middle. So just like a hole, that's where the vertex goes on that. Okay, so make sure you line up your vertex on whatever that midpoint of your protractor is. Okay. Step 2, once you've done that, you need to line up one side of the angle with the 0 line of the protractor. Okay, so if you look at the example we have right here, this line, you can see this arrow is pointed at this 0. Okay, that it's maybe it's hard to tell that that's a 0, but it needs to be pointed right at that 0. It could also be pointed at this 0, and then you would just read a different set of numbers, but both of those will work. Step 3 is going to be to read the degrees where the other side crosses the number scale. So with the way that this one is set up, we have 0 right here. This is the set of numbers we're reading, is the inside numbers. Okay, do not read the other set of numbers. You want to read the one that starts with 0. So if our angle was going this way, you would read the outside numbers instead. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So for this angle, we have, once again, our bottom ray is pointing towards 0 here. So we're going to go up until we hit the other line. You can see that that hits on this set of numbers where 0 is. It's at about 71 degrees because this is 70, goes a little bit past 70. So we would call that 71 degrees. Okay. For example, 2 here, measure each angle, classify each angle based on its measurement. So exact same thing, right? This one, again, the vertex is right there on the midpoint of the protractor. We have it lined up to 0. Now we're going to read that set of numbers where it hits this line. That would be, to me, that looks like it's exactly between the 30 and the 40. So that's going to be a 35 degree angle. And then, of course, that is an acute angle. Okay, anything, remember, less than 90 is acute. Okay, that's basically the gist of it. I want you guys to go ahead and do these 2 got it problems here. Try these on your own. So go ahead and pause the video while you do that. And then once you've finished it, restart the video. Make sure you've done it correctly. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to do that. If we look at this first one, we're looking at this 0 going all the way around. You should get 127 degrees. If you got 126 or 128, just so you guys know, when we get to test day, if you're within 1 degree of accuracy, I'm going to count it right. So if you said anything between 126 and 128, that is an acceptable answer. 127 degrees is an obtuse angle. And the last one here is another great example because now the numbers are the other ones that we haven't seen yet. So it's pointing on the left side. That is the numbers on the outside pointing to 0. So we want to make sure that we follow those. And that should get you to about 75 degrees. That is an acute angle. Okay. You can always check and make sure you've looked at the right numbers, by the way. Because if I had looked here and seen between 100 and 110 for this angle, well, guess what? This angle is an acute angle. So that means it has to be less than 90. 105 is not less than 90. So that would not be the correct measure for this angle. So make sure your numbers match the fact that it's an acute angle here. Okay? We're going to move into example 3 here and the got it problems here. Okay, so I am not able to obviously put the protractor on the screen, measure these angles with you on the screen. So I want you to treat all 5 of these angles as got it problems. So just pause the video and go ahead and go through doing these problems for me. All right, so the good news is, while I don't have these 2 got it problems at the bottom, I don't have the angle measures for those. I did find from a previous year the 3 angle measures of these example problems. You should have about 11 degrees on the top left, 54 degrees in the middle, 48 degrees on the right. I also want you guys to notice how I'm labeling these angles. Okay, so first thing you're going to make sure you do, unless it's a right angle where you would draw the box, you're just going to draw the arc. Okay, make sure you draw the arc, and then next to that arc you're going to label it with the angle measure. So this one, I'm just eyeballing this. I would guess that's about like 86, 87 degrees. So I would write 86, put your degree sign there. But make sure you have your arc and your angle measure when you label these angles. Okay, that is it for this notes video. So once you've finished up all of these examples and got it problems, you guys are good to go on the notes. And that's going to be it. So I will see you guys in class.